A mother goes missing on her morning walk only to turn up dead on a riverbank 10 days later. What happened? How did she get there? And who was responsible? The murder of Alison Baden Clay coming up right after this. Hello guys. Welcome to Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans, True Aussie Murders Caffeinated. I'm your host, Belinda Brady, and welcome. Welcome guys. Welcome to the show. This episode is titled The Murder of Alison Baden Clay. And before I dive into the episode, I'll give you a quick breakdown of how I do things here over at Coffee Scenes, because we do have some new listeners on board. My name's Belinda Brady. I am the host of this podcast, and I try to talk to you guys about the crimes as though I'm having a conversation with my friend. And I have been asked, do I drink coffee during recording? Yes, I do. I just edit out the sips because nobody needs to hear that. So that out of the way, I just need to do a quick shout out to some new listeners we've got from all over. I'm going to do some countries. We have some listeners from the US, Australia, of course, the United Kingdom, yay, the Netherlands, Austria, and Egypt. And we've even got a few joining in from Poland and the United Arab Emirates. So welcome, guys. Thank you for listening. I love that. I love it. And before I go into the episode, I'll give you my sources for this episode. It is www.probonocentre.org.au, womansweekly.com.au, news.com.au, sbs.com.au, goldcoastbulletin.com.au, and abcnet.au. And what am I drinking for this episode? Well, it is absolutely freezing in my corner of Australia. We've only got 3 weeks of it left, but it is really digging its heels in. So I am drinking a mocha because I need some chocolate and I need some caffeine. So whatever you guys are drinking, if you're having a drink, settle in, relax, lend me your ears, whether you're at the gym or you're going for a walk or you're settling down or you're driving. Lend me your ears and let's get stuck right into the murder of Alison Baden Clay. Now, a picture can tell 1,000 words. When we see certain pictures, we can't help but imagine the life behind the image. You know, the husband and wife smiling in their beautiful home with their beautiful kids, looking blissfully happy. And a lot of us, and I know I do it, a lot of us look at that image and think, I want that, or don't they look happy? But what if the truth in that picture was so awful that the reality of that image was so horrific, you'd want to climb into that picture and rescue the wife and her children from the monster next to them. Now, this is the case of Alison Baden Clay, the beautiful, smart and talented mother of 3 beautiful daughters and the wife of Gerard Baden Clay. She is also one of the most well-known domestic violence and family violence murder cases in this country. And what happened to her was, it's not unlike the Chris Watts murder, where he murdered his wife Shanann and his daughters Celeste and Bella. So I'm sure we're familiar with that crime. It was horrific. When I'm talking about the Alison Baden Clay murder in this episode, there's a lot of similarities between this case and the Chris Watts case. So just kind of to put it in perspective for you guys. Now, Alison Baden Clay, who was born Alison Dickey, was born on the 1st of July 1968 to parents Priscilla and Jeff Dickey. Alison had a younger sister, Ashley, and an older sister, Vanessa. Now, Alison was a really popular student, and she was smart and she was talented, and she adored her ballet. And they said when she was on stage performing, she lit up the stage. In fact, Alison even went as far as being crowned Miss Brisbane in 1993. That's just how full of life and just how much she shone when she was in a room. Now, Alison wanted nothing more than to get the love that she gave others in return. She wanted nothing more than that. Now, Alison met Gerard Baden Clay when the pair were working in a travel agent here in Australia called Flight Centre. Now, they were working together in 1995, with Gerard saying, I fell in love with her pretty well straight away. Now, Gerard was born in Bournemouth in the United Kingdom, and him and his family migrated to Australia in around 1980. Now, after the pair met, a whirlwind romance followed, and in 1996, Gerard proposed to Alison underneath a replica Eiffel Tower in a town called Milton. But Alison didn't say yes right away. She had been engaged before and told Gerard that she needed a week to think about her decision. And Alison eventually said yes, and Gerard and his princess were married on the 23rd of August 1997. The reception was beautiful. They both looked happy and in love. It was a very, very beautiful wedding. Now, the couple went on a working honeymoon which lasted for around 2 years, with 10 days being spent at a resort in the Maldives so the couple could just relax. When they returned to Australia, they dove straight on into family life, and the couple went on to have 3 daughters who they named Sarah, Hannah, and Eleonora. Alison adored her girls, absolutely adored her girls, and she loved being a mother. She doted on those girls. She loved being married, but the cracks in her marriage were already starting to show. Now, Alison struggled with depression, which she sought out therapy and took antidepressants for, but the cracks were starting to show in her marriage, and I'm not sure if that contributed to her depression. I dare say it wouldn't have helped, but the cracks were definitely starting to show. Now, Gerard was a real estate agent, and Alison decided to join him in the real estate world. She was trying to help out there. Finances were flailing, and there's good money to be made in real estate. So while Alison was working on herself, Gerard was doing anything but. Now, Gerard had always been controlling, but he really started to turn it up. So he was controlling of Alison. He gradually cut Alison off from her parents. He cut them off to the point where they considered intervening, but they thought as Alison was strong, she would be able to sort it out for herself, and they were worried that Gerard might cut them off from their granddaughters, or worse, that he might hurt their granddaughters if they interfered, so they didn't. A decision that they would sadly come to regret. Now, they have said that they had no doubt she was frightened of Gerard. He was a very dominating and controlling man, so they had no doubt she was afraid of him, and from what I've read, he went to no lengths to hide this side of his character. Now, not only was he controlling, Gerard was emotionally abusive. He would tell Alison that she smelled and reject her whenever she tried to be intimate with him. He would laugh at what she was wearing. He would mock her appearance. He would tell her she was worthless. The strong, happy Alison was being destroyed from within by the man that she loved, who had had several affairs during their marriage already, but he wasn't done yet. Oh, no. While he agreed to undergo marriage counselling, which was suggested by Alison, who was desperate to save the marriage, Gerard embarked on yet another affair, this time rekindling one with his co-worker, a woman by the name of Tony McHugh. And just like every other mistress, Tony truly believed Gerard would leave his wife for her. Now, Gerard even hooked up with another woman while he was seeing Tony, while he was still married to Alison, at a work conference. And for whatever reason, Tony forgave it, and I don't know if Alison knew about that. So not only was he a danger to her emotionally, he was a danger to her physically, putting her at risk of sexually transmitted diseases, etc., etc. Now, The couple, they lived in Brookfield. So they were married, they had their daughters. They lived in Brookfield, which is a suburb in Queensland. Beautiful, beautiful suburb in Queensland, really nice area. And Gerard ran a real estate business, but the once booming business was struggling thanks to the floods that hit the area in 2010. Now, the floods which hit the Brisbane region in December of 2010 had forced the evacuation of at least 90 towns, leaving over 200,000 people affected and 33 people dead. The damage bill, the estimated damage bill, was $1 billion with a B, $1 billion, but that was raised to $2.38 billion. I remember when these floods happened, they were awful. And as a result, people weren't buying or selling homes because there was no homes to buy or sell. They were all underwater. And as a result, Gerard was struggling. But that didn't stop him. He still took up his affair with Tony and still put on the impression of being a successful businessman. Now, Tony would communicate with Gerard via text. The pair would communicate via text and phone and meet up several times a week. They even went as far as Gerard creating a fake email account. And Gerard told Tony that he no longer loved his wife, but he could not leave her due to her deteriorating mental health. Now, a former colleague of Gerard's told Alison of their affair, and as a result, Tony left the real estate business and the affair stopped. Gerard promised his wife, that's it, it's over, I'll never see that woman again. But he lied, because it started up again a few months later with Gerard telling Tony that he would be out of his marriage by the 1st of July. And again, this is giving me such strong Chris Watts vibes. If you know his story, you know he told his mistress that he was going to be out of his marriage very soon. It's eerily similar. Anyway, I digress. Now, while Alison was trying her best to hold up the pieces of her failing marriage, she was going to therapy, she was trying to better herself, she was trying to look the best for her husband. And while she was putting in the hard work, he was doing anything but, and it all came to a head one night in April. On the 20th of April 2012, Gerard called 000 telling the operator in a calm manner, "I don't want to be an alarmist. My wife isn't home. I don't know where she is." This call was placed at 7:15 a.m. and Gerard had woken to find Alison not in the house. Now, she was meant to be on her way to a real estate conference and had not returned from her usual morning walk. He claimed he had left her watching a sports show the night before and woke up at 6 a.m. to find her gone. He sent her a text at 6:20 a.m. that read, "Good morning, hope you slept well. Where are you? None of the girls are up yet. Love, G." Which, coming from a husband who rejected his wife's sexual advances because she smelled, this kind of text message was definitely amiss. He texted her again at 6:41 a.m. "Al, getting concerned. Where are you? The app doesn't say either. 2 of the girls now up. I'm dressed and about to make lunches. Please just text me back or call. Love, G." He then called his father, who told his sister, and they soon arrived to the household and set out looking for Alison. Now, Gerard's sister Olivia spoke to the local mums down at the school where they were dropping their kids off, and she knew they were friendly with Alison, and even went as far as walking down to a creek bed as she drove around looking for Alison. Gerard's dad stayed back and looked after the girls, and Gerard drove around to Alison's walking spots in her car. He then went home to meet the police, who had arrived at approximately 8 a.m. after he had made that 000 call. And 000 is 911. That's Australia's emergency number. Just need to clarify that. Okay, now 2 police officers were met by Gerard when they arrived at his house, who was dressed for work, who had nice little neat cufflinks on. and had noticed that he had scratches on his face. Now, the scratches were jagged red lines and they worked all their way down Gerard's right cheek and to the bottom of his jaw. They were sus right away. Now, he told police he cut himself shaving, but they weren't having it, so they called for backup. While they were waiting for backup, they looked around the home and found no evidence of foul play. And while Gerard initially said he'd answer questions, he admitted to his affair and he admitted to being in financial trouble. By the time he was driven to the police station in Indooroopilly to make a statement, he had changed his mind and asked to speak to a lawyer. And the police were absolutely furious. So we've had a husband who's reported his wife missing. They've arrived at the house. He's got suspicious scratches on his face. He said, I'm having an affair. I have financial problems. Sure, I'll come down and give you guys a statement. And then he changes his mind. Now, while all this was happening, somehow at some point he's managed to call Tony, who was at the same real estate conference that Alison was meant to be at. And she had been expecting to see Alison that day and also have a confrontation with her because Alison had recently found out that Gerard and Tony had started up their affair again. Now, she told Gerard that she hadn't seen Alison at all that day. And she asked him if they'd had a fight, and he told her that there'd been nothing out of sorts. And Tony stated, I won't be made to feel guilty for this. After telling Gerard she loved him, he told her they needed to lay low for a while. Now, meanwhile, the police were swarming the Brookfield area looking for Alison. They thought maybe she'd hurt herself when she was out walking and couldn't get up to help. They called her friends, her family. They called hospitals in the area to see if she'd been admitted, and there was no sign of her. Now, Gerard waited hours before finally calling Alison's parents to say, hey, your daughter's missing, who rushed to their home. When they got there, they spoke with Gerard in private, and Priscilla stated he was cool as a cucumber and that he had already hired a lawyer. Already, before anything else. Police were sus, and they were now sus. They were absolutely stunned. Now, Gerard was dressed for work that morning, which I'd said, and he was immaculate. Now, this struck Alison's parents as odd, especially that, and that the house was in order. It was nice and clean, which was not the case because they had 3 girls, and girls are messy. I'm a girl. I can say that because I'm a messy girl. And when he told them that the last time he saw her was when they were watching a sports show, a rugby league show here in Australia called The Footy Show the night before, they didn't buy it because they knew for a fact that their daughter didn't like that show. Now, detectives traced Alison's phone and it pinged to being somewhere around the back, and this got police excited. They thought maybe Alison was just visiting the people who lived behind them and couldn't hear people, in her house looking for her. Gerard didn't rush out to see if she was there, and all he managed to say was, okay. Needless to say, she wasn't there. She was not found, but her phone was found. Alison wasn't found that day, and Gerard didn't join her family at the police command post on the second day of her disappearance when the search for her resumed. He spoke to an officer briefly and answered the same question he'd already answered the day before, and then left for a doctor's appointment, concerned about the cuts on his face. Now, he presented to Kenmore Clinics at 8:30 a.m. and saw a doctor by the name of Candice Bevan. Now, telling her he was concerned about the cuts on his face, she noticed he was anxious and kept repeating himself. He told her 3 times the marks were from shaving in a hurry the day before, and she told him they were superficial. There was really nothing that she could do to treat them. He told her then that the real reason he was there was he needed the doctor to document his injuries on his file, as he had hurt himself shaving as he was currently under police investigation and his wife was missing. I promise you I am not making that up. And of course, she refused. Now, Gerard stayed friendly, even offering real estate advice and help when she mentioned how far she lived from the practice and how she would like to live closer to the practice. And he even went as far as leaving her a business card on her desk as he left. He then returned to Indooroopilly police station where he was swabbed for DNA with his lawyer by his side. The police asked Gerard to take his shirt off for photos, which is standard, and they were shocked by what they saw. He had scratches on his neck, his right armpit, and a large red graze was on the left-hand side of his chest. He also had a cut on the palm of his hand. He told the police they were self-inflicted and then asked, "Can you tell if that these are self-inflicted?" He told them that he had cut his hand by changing a light fitting, though that was not witnessed by anyone in the house. Now, by 4 p.m. that day, Gerard was back at a new doctor's in a new clinic, asking a new doctor, a doctor by the name of Dr. Renu Kumar, to write in his file that the scratches were from him scratching himself with a razor. The next day, day 3, and still no sighting of Alison. Police wanted him back at the station for a complete forensic examination. Now, Gerard had to borrow a friend's old 4-wheel drive as police had confiscated both of their cars. One belonged to him, one belonged to Alison. He got as far as a local shopping centre before crashing the car into a bus terminal's pylon. Now, police were convinced he was trying to cover up his injuries with new ones. Now, on the 24th of April, Gerard stood outside the marital home telling reporters, "I'm trying to look after my children at the moment. We've got 3 young girls. We really trust that the police are doing everything they can do to find my wife." Gerard's manner drew suspicion from the public, but many reasoned it to be a man was worried about his missing wife. I mean, how are you meant to act? There's no script, there's no textbook, you should act this way. So they cut him a bit of slack. And on the 26th of April, a prayer vigil was held for Alison while police seized bags of material from the house and Gerard's office and continued to question and monitor Gerard while looking for Alison. Police also set up a mannequin dressed in the same clothing that Alison was wearing when she went missing outside the family's Brookfield home, so people driving past could see her and that might jog a memory of, hey, I saw that girl. Another prayer vigil was held for her and search crews, which included motorbikes, state emergency service workers, and air searchers widened their aerial search for her. And Gerard again acknowledged the public and released a statement thanking them for their support. On the 30th of April 2012, horticulture professor Daryl Joyce went paddling up Colo Creek, something he loved to do if the tide and the time permitted. And on that day, on the 30th of April, both did, so he went paddling. As he turned a bend in the picturesque creek, he noticed something odd underneath the bridge. I saw a person lying on their side beneath the bridge. Initially, I thought it was someone sleeping on the creek bank. Then I realised it was Alison based on her clothes. A mannequin dressed like Alison had been shown on TV. The body was face down, her jumper tangled around her neck, and she was dressed in casual clothes. In shock, Professor Joyce paddled back to his car, drove home, and called the police. Within hours, officers would be winced down to the muddy bank where the body lay, looking for clues. And the following day, the body was confirmed to be Alison. Now, Alison had undergone significant decomposition due to being exposed to the elements, especially around her face, and at that stage, her cause of death was unknown. Police broke the news to Alison's devastated family, her daughters, and her husband. Alison was laid to rest on the 11th of May at St Paul's Anglican Church in Ipswich, which is a suburb in Queensland, and it was surrounded by friends and family. The number of mourners who attended was so big that the church set up large screens and extra outside seating so everyone could be accommodated. Now, Gerard played the role of the grieving husband and father, comforting his devastated daughters, as Alison's sister spoke of her sister, describing Alison as a devoted wife and a wonderful, wonderful mother. As the community continued to leave flowers at the Baden Clay home, Gerard kept up the appearance of the grieving husband, and he and his daughters spent a lot of time at his parents' house. Police constantly had him in their sights, and they seized property from Gerard's parents' house, which consisted of laptops, hard drives, and other items. They also took the razor blade that Gerard claimed to have cut himself with. Now, police also did some more testing and more looking during this time. They took the razor blade that Gerard claimed to have cut with himself, and they found there was no blood. They looked at both the cars, one of them being the blue Captiva, and they actually found blood in it. They found a contact smear with streaks, and they also found blood and hair. And at the back at the house, they found a contact smear with streaks that ran down to the floorboards. The blood and hair they found in the Captiva matched Alison. Now, it needs to be said that the police never suspected that Gerard's mistress, Tony, was involved. She was never a suspect. The only true suspect here was Gerard, and they were certain he had killed Alison and dumped her body under the bridge, hoping that the rising creek tide would wash her body away. They were absolutely convinced, and hence why they were monitoring him 24/7. Now, police also discovered that while an autopsy was being performed on Alison, Gerard had set about cashing in on her life insurance, which was worth around $1 million. The evidence that gave police the smoking gun that they needed to make an arrest was that there were leaves found in Alison's hair. 6 different types of leaves were found, but only 2 belonged to the area where she was found. So 2 only belonged to that creek bed where she was found. All 6 could be found in her own backyard, meaning that the leaves came from the trees in her backyard. Police were convinced that Gerard had dragged Alison's body from the house to the car where her blood was found, and that's how the leaves ended up in her hair. Gerard Baden Clay was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife Alison on the 13th of June 2012. He instantly pleaded not guilty. He was also charged with interfering with a body, and he pled not guilty to that also. His defense was that he was with the girls the night Alison apparently died. He would not have left them alone to dispose of her body. And when Alison's pathology revealed that she had antidepressants in her system, which was a known fact, she did not hide that she took them, Gerard's defense ran with the possibility of a suicide, maybe she did this to herself. Gerard was denied bail and was made to stand trial in March 2013. Now, the murder trial began on the 10th of June 2014, and the case against Gerard was strong. The court heard from neighbours who heard screaming coming from the house the night before Alison went missing and the night that we think Alison died. And they heard from Gerard's business partners who found out about his rekindled affair with Tony and told Gerard that he needed to either end things with his wife or end things with Tony, or they would cease their partnership. It was also told that Gerard was around $300,000 in debt and had only around $70,000 in assets. Now, he had begun the claim on Alison's life insurance when she had been found. Tony, his mistress, also testified that Gerard told her to lie low when Alison initially went missing and that he couldn't afford a divorce. The court heard of the scratches on Gerard's face and body, the leaves in Alison's hair, the ones that matched the trees in her yard, and the court was shown pictures of Alison's body, how she was found, and the state of decomposition that she was in. The court was told of the marriage troubles, and Alison's diaries were then brought into evidence. And the court got to hear, in Alison's own words, how desperate she was to make their marriage work despite Gerard's behaviour and despite his affair. Alison wrote, "I don't want to be alone. I'm afraid of being alone and lonely, maybe because I think I can't handle it. I'm afraid of failing in my marriage and what people will think." Now, Gerard took the stand. And he told the court that though he is a known liar, he admits that he is a liar. There in the courtroom on that day, he would tell the truth. He admitted to the affair with Tony and affairs with multiple other women, but he swore he did not hurt Alison. Justice John Byrne wasn't buying any of it. On the 15th of July, Gerard Baden Clay was found guilty of the murder of his wife Alison, to which her family erupted into a chorus of yes. Justice John Byrne was scathing in his sentencing of Gerard. He said that the murder wasn't premeditated, but he was stressed about Alison and Tony meeting at the real estate conference the following day, and that Alison would find out about their affair. The affair that Gerard had told her he had ended in 2011. Now, Alison questioned Gerard about this affair. She knew something was going on. She was sus. She knew what her husband was like, and she questioned him. And at some stage, Gerard just lost it, erupted, and attacked Alison. And Alison fought for her life. The scratches on his face and his body and the screams heard by the neighbours are all evidence of this. She fought for her life. But Alison was no match for her husband, who was bigger and stronger than her, as he smothered the life out of her. He then dragged her body into the car, drove to the creek bed and dumped her body there, exposing her to the elements to make it look like she had fallen on her morning run, or perhaps took her own life, and then went home and played the role of the concerned husband, sending text messages, being all lovey-dovey in those text messages, covering his tracks. Justice John Byrne then told Gerard that even though he had no criminal history, he is not a good character, and he has forever blighted the lives of his 3 girls by killing their adored mother. He then sentenced Gerard to life in jail. Outside court, Alison's family welcomed the verdict as Gerard was led away to begin his life sentence, with her sister Vanessa stating, "My sister today, for the first time since she married Gerard, has come out on top." Her parents said although the sentence would not bring Alison back, it is closure for the family. Now, in a shock twist in 2015, Gerard managed to have his murder charge downgraded to manslaughter after he said that yes, he did kill Alison, but he didn't mean to. He accidentally killed her during an argument. She fell and she hit her head. He panicked, dragged her body to a creek rather than calling the police and saying, "Hey, this has happened." They weren't buying it. And he later had the murder charge reinstated in 2016. After this, Alison's daughters went to live with her parents and their grandparents, and the family went on to form the Alison Baden Clay Foundation, which aims to shine the spotlight on the different forms of domestic violence through education and support, and their motto is "Strive to be kind." Alison's sister Vanessa is chair of the board and is the face and the heart of the foundation. Alison's daughters, who, like I said, have been raised by Alison's parents, are now grown up. They are beautiful, beautiful girls, and only a few weeks ago they stepped out for the foundation's Strive to be Kind Day. In such tragic circumstances, those beautiful girls are thriving. Gerard Baden Clay will spend the rest of his life in Woolston Correctional Centre, Queensland in Brisbane for the murder of his wife Alison, and that is where he will most likely die. And there we have it, guys, the story of Alison Baden Clay, the beautiful, smart, wonderful mother, adored daughter and sister who was murdered by her husband, who for whatever reason decided that he would rather see his wife dead than just simply divorce her. I will never, ever, ever understand it. And that's it, guys. Another episode of Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans done and dusted. If anyone wants to subscribe to my podcast, you can, and you will get bonus ghost story episodes. Yes, I hear you all say, Australia is wonderfully haunted. Come discover it with me. And you can leave me a comment on YouTube. You can buy me a coffee. You can send me a text. You can find me on TikTok. And thank you all for listening. You are all rock stars. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay cool, and stay caffeinated. I will catch you all later.